Hello and welcome to No Prize Podcast. I am the Professor Bud Young, and I hope everybody is enjoying their spring. We're enjoying it so much we took a week off. But with me from Parts Unknown is Lucas. How are you, Lucas?
I'm good, baby. Found the magic bottle.
All right. And from across the pond, we have rejoining the team is Johnny the Machine Hughes. How are you, Johnny?
I'm all right. Thank you for having me back.
All right. How's everybody doing? Everybody enjoying their spring? We're into April showers.
Well, first of all, I would like to give thanks and praise to the All Heavenly Father for giving the location where I'm at just a couple more weeks of cold weather, so that I could keep wearing my sweaters and hiding my gut and my non-working and non-exercising in the gym. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for that.
It's like Body by Marvel Comics is pretty much so.
Well,
I know that's what.
you know how in some of the Star Wars joints they have like everybody's like the pilot or the freaking soldier, but then you have this random like big fat guy out of nowhere. We know who they're targeting. They're targeting people with my body type, right? Because they want to make me mess me up and think that I could go out there and fit my fat ass into that fucking cockpit, man. Like, nah, man. Like, nah. I've done my time. I know that there's no way in hell, man. But man, look who we got though. The
Oh yeah,
machine Hughes.
Johnny
Wow,
is
holy
Yeah,
back.
crap.
I ain't fit in any cockpit either. So that's fine. Yeah, me and Parkins can have it. Go on, son. Go and attack the Death Star.
Hey,
Watch out, Red Six.
but as long as you enjoyed your way on your way to that body type, that's all that
Yeah,
matters, right?
well, yeah. Built for comfort, baby, not speed.
Yeah, I think my X-wing flies like this.
My X-wing left. That's why she's the X.
Ah,
Nice. So, we're gonna talk a little bit about Moon Knight, and I don't know if you guys have seen Moon Knight yet. Did you watch the first episode or the first two?
I'm one episode in.
Huh? Huh?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Lucas?
yes, I am one episode in. I am halfway, well, I'm maybe 10, 15 minutes into the second episode. And let me tell you, man, it's interesting what they're trying to do here, man. Freaking they look it's I like what they're trying to do with their like. Whereas everybody else, they're saying, well, okay, this person, that, and maybe because they had this past trauma, now that's why they're that, and they're sacrifice. No, they're like, hey, there's this guy who's got some serious stuff happening with him, not just in his life, happening with him, and he's got to
Mm.
struggle through that to figure out what is going on, and we get to go on along that ride as we figure out what's going on with him. Because got to remember, yes, us comic book nerds, we know who this guy is. We think we know who this guy is. Actually, they changed the story, but the rest of the world doesn't know who he is, right?
Right.
And they get to discover along with everybody else who he is in increments. Like, hey, one time he's on a freaking bus, next time he's in his freaking bedroom, next time he's inside a freaking museum when he's not supposed to be. So, and we get to discover what's going on slowly but surely. That's perfect, perfect pacing.
I'm going to tell you what made me fall in love with the show before we even saw Oscar Isaac as Mark Spector. The the opening scene was with Ethan Hawke's character with the when he just had the broken glass in his shoes and he just put them on, and I was just like, wow, what kind of show is this going to be? And he just gets up and he walks out of the room, and I'm just like, oh geez. And that was even before we even saw the Moon Knight, and that was to me was going to be. I was like, this is I'm in. I'm already fully invested in the show already. But yeah, I think the cool thing about his dual identity and his, I guess, what are they calling it, dissociative identity disorder. They're
DID.
not calling it schizophrenia for some reason.
Well,
But
schizophrenia was phased out of the DSM-5 like 5, 6 years ago. That's why.
okay, but it's the same thing, really, kind of. Well, there's a different word, just a different name for it.
Different ways of treating it, different indicators that they're going for. Um, because there's definitely, so for instance, what if there's a trauma indicated freaking dissociative disorder, right? That's
Mm.
like, hey, something just happened to you, but then 3 months
Yeah.
later, there's no indication of what happened, right? Then there's, hey, indicator, and like something happens, like every time this thing happens, like, hey, a bell rings. Every time I hear a bell rings, then it freaking happens, right?
Right.
And then there's this, which is the ID, which is all the time, all you don't know what's going on. You freaking just all of a sudden wake up in a lily field. And we're not talking about alcohol related. You wake up in a freaking lily field, and
Speaking
and you
from
know what's
experience, speak
yeah,
from
yeah.
experience there, Luke.
Hey, I've walked in. Hey, there's been a couple times, but I've woken up in a Japanese bar on top of a pool table. It just happens, right? Um, but this is where it really important. What I do want to see is him getting the treatment, which goes into kind of what the book, the 2022 book series is going into. Like, hey, if you see this stuff going on and you got the indicators, you need to get yourself treated. And I do love that they do address that. You can't just freaking go through the rest of your life claim, saying, oh man, I'm all jacked up and I guess I'll just struggle through it. No, there is help. You
Mm.
can freaking get help, and I hope they keep on that note.
Well, the thing that I think is interesting, and I guess I'm gonna predict what's coming down the line, is we've seen Stephen Grant and we've seen Mark Spector and we've seen the introduction of Moon Knight and Khonshu into this MCU. I know that there's almost zero reference to the MCU at large in this show, but we have not met Jake Lockley yet, and that's what I think is down the road. This whole show might wake up and be a third personality. And I think that
Yep.
that's gonna throw all the fans that really don't know Moon Knight for a loop when they introduce the third
And,
identity.
and that for me, this is the problem with the Moon Knight character, not the disassociated personality disorder is a real thing,
Hmm.
and I'm not making light of that in any shape, way, or form, but it comes in Moon Knight. I always feel that you write yourself into a corner. So I tell you what, let's just throw another personality in the mix,
Hmm.
and then let's see what happens. And I would not like to see that happen because I think you've got to you're going to have fans who like the various characters that he's going through, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So throwing more characters into the mix for the idea of getting out of a story bind dilutes the fans' opinion of the original characters that they like. So I'd just like to, let's work with what we've got. Let's not keep throwing oil on the fire.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that's
I
my
mean,
my personal
right.
view.
Yeah. I mean, they could have gone a different way. They could have gone and started with us with Mark Spector as the base character, and then
Mm,
built out from there. But they went in a different direction, and once again, it's because of the whole DID. They decided to actually focus on the Egyptian culture, which was
mm-hmm,
a big piece, and all indications, because I've been looking at a lot of the articles from overseas, and it looks like that Disney has been heavily marketing this thing to a lot of the people overseas, particularly people in Arabic cultures, people in Egyptian cultures, particularly in India and Pakistan.
Hmm.
And we all know, and the reason why that is because they just within the last couple of years they just had Disney Hotstar, which is specifically marketed towards people of those cultures. So they're starting out with this guy. Say, hey, Marvel's got some guys. This is where we're going to start out with No Shoe, who is an old Egyptian god.
mm-hmm.
And then all indications are, from what I've seen and some of the covers that are coming out later, as they're going to slowly drip in Indian Spider-Man. But this is a great start, right? Because we're here, we get to appreciate this guy up on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see where it's going. It's great so far.
He looks awesome.
Yeah.
Just looking at that, I think he looks better on the show than he does in the comics. This is one of those instances that I think that they actually
See,
made him look better.
I think the CGI is a little bit wonky. There's something about his hands that just don't quite work. His hands don't the bend in funny ways. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's a style of what they're going for, but for me the CGI looks a bit wonky. But well, I'm an episode in. I'm sure that I'll watch the second episode and I'll be all like, ooh, intrigued. But of course, to be fair, I'm just waiting for Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're all waiting for Obi-Wan. That's gonna be
That looks the bomb. So
Well, are you talking about Obi-Wan, the TV series, or the
yeah,
comic?
TV show.
Because people are really hype about the comic coming out.
Well, I hope they
Because
do
the
better
comic,
than
yeah, the covers are hot.
I hope they do
interesting.
better
Photos
with
are,
I hope they do better than that than they did with the Han Solo one.
yeah. Well, that Han Solo joint was freaking garbage, except for that Adam Hughes, which was like a 1 in 50
Yeah.
or something like that.
Mm.
But yeah, man.
All right, so that's what's going on over at Disney Plus. We have Moon Knight currently airing every Wednesday. But let's jump into what's happening in the Marvel Comics universe, and let's start with a book that we've been talking about for months, and I think we've reviewed almost every issue as it comes out. Let's start talking Devil's Reign #6. We got Chip Zdarsky and is it Marco Cicchetti on art?
Hmm. Look,
And
I'm not saying anything. I get these wrong on my shows, so I'm thinking, oh yeah, someone else can get it wrong. Brilliant. Excellent.
Marco Cicchetto, excuse me, with colors by Marcio Menes and letters VC's Clayton Cowles, who we never mess up because he's on there all the time. So this is Johnny. I know this was your pick for the week. Do you want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess at some point in this 6-issue run, there had to be the big superhero, supervillain fight. It's been brewing. I'm disappointed that we had to resort to that, to be fair. I thought this book was better than that. However, that said, it is a comic book, so you knew it was coming somewhere down the line. I think for me, the highlight of this whole run was the setup, issue 4, when Fisk finally remembers.
Yep.
And then last issue where Fisk takes it out on Matt's brother. Both issues fantastic. The pace was great. It felt ominous. It felt terror. It was really, really good. This doesn't have the same weight as those issues because it is the fight issue. There is some really nice touches still. Luke Cage and the Purple Kid, it's a nice little touch. I like the fact that for the most part, Devil Rain's been seemingly contained. I know there's been tie-ins, but they haven't had a massive impact to the 6 issues. So I like that. I thought the art in this book by Marco Cicchetto was absolutely bang on, perfect. I love this. A little bit of David Finch style in there, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was pacey. The fight scene at the end between Murdoch and Fisk was great. I like the twist in the tail with Fisk for president and how that played out. But no, I thought this run has been an absolute blast, and I'm gonna miss picking this up. Hopefully, the new Daredevil book that follows will be equally as good.
Well, same creative team.
So let's hope that it is then. I like the fact they haven't thrown Elektra to the curb.
You're right. Or like kind of have her abandon the Daredevil identity now that Matt's back.
Yeah, I like Lady Daredevil. I think she's class. She looks great. Yeah.
So the thing that I love about this book and Zdarsky's run on Daredevil was I feel like this really has been more of a Kingpin story since the beginning of this book than it's almost been equal weight. And this sign off isn't really a goodbye to this Daredevil run. It's a goodbye letter to pretty much Kingpin. Right, because he gets to ride off in the sunset at the end of this with Typhoid Mary, and supposedly, I guess, live happily ever after until the next time he comes back. But you have his son Butch, who ascends to the Kingpin role. You have Luke Cage elected mayor of New York. What are they going to do with that? That seems fairly interesting. And as far as the fight issue, I do kind of feel like the fights in this book were kind of like an afterthought. I don't think that they were the focus of this issue at all. I think it was like a 3-page fight with the Fantastic Four showing up and the Thunderbolts and all that. And that's another book that's spinning off out of this is the Thunderbolts. So
Right. And that's fine, right? Because the main focus was to show the struggle, like the mental struggle in between like the Purple Man and the Purple Children, right?
yeah,
Whatever the guy's name son was, right?
yeah,
The Purple Son, he was trying to hold everybody back and let the superheroes do their thing. The Purple Man was trying to have him kill everybody to include his own son.
yeah.
So this was amazing. Like I want to see more of the Purple Children. I want this to be like an ongoing thing. I want to see him in the MCU. His first appearance was Daredevil #4 from the 2014 run. I didn't even know this was a thing. Now
Mm.
they're slowly dripping in some of these Netflix characters into the MCU. Right, we've already got Daredevil, and Luke Cage apparently supposed to make it. Now Jessica, she's supposed to show up at some point, right? Which would be awesome, right? So if we got Jessica, let's bring back the Purple Man and bring back the Purple Children, like especially if you're going for the youth movement, across the MCU.
You have to do a little bit of a reboot there. Didn't Jessica kill the Purple Man at the end of season 1?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or did he mentally think that make her think that she killed him? I don't know, but
No.
but
Time
that.
travel. There you go.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole multiverse thing, everything's reset. Anything goes right now. To include, there's already talk about Black Widow. She's coming back. But yeah, hey, okay, so he's dead, but then you got these purple children that she never knew were around, right? So that's how you bring back this whole element. Um, I would just love to see that, man. Bringing back Doctor Who's Purple Man, like, but I do definitely want to see the children. This would be awesome.
I think this book was very much an ending for Zdarsky's current storylines that have been going on for the last couple of years. And this was probably, and I've said for years, I think these event books start off gangbusters and can never stick the landing. I think this was a book that really stuck the landing for me. And
Yeah.
Agreed.
it's very rare. Very rare.
What I will say about Zdarsky's writing, when they introduced Matt's brother,
Yeah.
I was kind of like, it was just for me, it was very much a side character,
Mm-hmm.
not massively important. There's going to be some like short term pain for Matt with the brother around. At no point did I ever consider that he was there to facilitate the death of the Matt Murdock identity. So for someone like me who's been around the block a bit and seen quite a lot of comic books already, I think Zdarsky needs a bit of a round of applause for keeping
Right.
the wool over my eyes right up until the last issue of issue 5 of Devil's Reign,
Right.
where it was like, of course he's going to kill the brother. Oh,
How often do you not see it coming, right?
exactly. And I'm like, with this time around, I was like, man, why are you there? But so hats off for keeping the story interesting, keep the characters a little bit off center, so that the obvious play is missed.
Yeah. And now that once it happened, you were like, of course, right?
Yeah,
You were like, it's so obvious now.
Yeah, of course. How did I not see it before?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see him being offered the presidency. I didn't see him killing the rich twins or whatever you freaking call them. I didn't see that freaking coming. I thought that was going to be like a stickler in his crawl for like a while.
He didn't kill them, right? They're still alive, right?
Well, he definitely shot old girl.
Yeah, but she's still alive at the end. If you look at the last panel where Butch is standing there after Kingpin leaves, she's like on the floor holding her shoulder. So obviously it was not a mortal wound. The brother might be dead, because Kingpin crushed his hand, right? But
so there's I suppose there's the hook to bring him back in, because sooner or later they'll go for revenge at some point.
Yeah,
and that'll be the hook that brings him back.
Well, and I think Butch is an interesting character too. And you know who they can play off with him is the Rose, who they reintroduced in this storyline too.
I was just about to say that.
Sorry, I stepped on you.
It's all right, it's fine. I also liked. We talked about personality disorder earlier. I liked how they've utilized Typhoid Mary in this book.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I've loved Typhoid Mary since the first John Romita Jr. advert that ran in the comic book where she stood
Yeah.
over him with the two blades and a hockey mask and a fishnets. So, you know, I think that's worked really well in this book, definitely.
Yeah, it's this book is fantastic. I don't know if we've ever had all of us agree on how good a book was in
Yeah, that's
a
true.
long time. So, you know, Devil's Reign, highest possible recommendation. If you haven't read it, go find if you can find them all, go get them.
What I will say just quickly about Devil's Reign, it has tied into lots of other books around the way, and I've got to say they've been interesting. They haven't the ones I've read. I think I read the Emma Frost one.
Yeah.
I read the Spider Woman one. I read a couple more, and the US Agent one was interesting. You know, they've been quite well done. Normally, when you get tie-in books, you're kind of like, "What is this?" But you know,
Yeah.
they made it work.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and but those tie-ins you didn't need to pick them up at all to get the
No.
regular story, and that was another part that I thought was really, really good, because if you didn't want to get them, you didn't have to.
I suppose I'd recommend getting the Lady Daredevil book. It's only 3 issues. I think that probably plays quite a bigger part than the others. But
Was that only like a 3-issue limited, or is?
I think it's only a 3 issue.
Oh, I thought. Well, there's 3 issues out now, but I thought it was an ongoing. But
No, I think she's going to join the new Daredevil book, isn't she? She's going to be like
of course. But, who knows?
Cool.
All right, so let's move off of Devil's Reign and let's talk our next book, and then we'll take a break. I wanted to talk the Fantastic Four because there's a lot of stuff going on in Fantastic Four right now. They're in the middle of their own event book called The Reckoning War. And Fantastic Four is brought to us by Dan Slott on writing, Rachel Stott on art, and color artists are Jesus Abertov and Eric Arciniaga, with letters VC's Joe Caramagna. So The Reckoning War is a pretty, I like to think it's a little bit of an ingenious kind of plot line from Dan. So the Watcher gets in trouble, right?
Yeah.
The Watcher gets in trouble for watching, but he has seen the Reckoning, who is an old enemy of the Watchers. The Reckoning is going to destroy the universe. So now Uatu decides that they needed to interfere to save the universe. And of course, the Fantastic Four is right in the thick of things. And, as this buildup, Dan Slott's been kind of changing the Fantastic Four a little bit. We've got Johnny Storm suffering from his powers being on all the time. We've introduced children for Ben Grimm back in the Empire event last year with. So he's got a Skrull daughter, a Kree son. He got married last year. So there's the things that you don't think about, like if everybody thinks the Fantastic Four is getting a little stale, he's kind of keeping them interesting and things happening in the book. And in the beginning of this storyline, to save the universe, Reed pretty much downloaded all of Uatu's knowledge into his brain, which of course his brain cannot contain all of this knowledge. So the strain is gonna kill him in days. But now that he knows pretty much everything, he is scrambling to save the universe with the help of the Fantastic Four, whether they want it or not. And the thing I liked about this book is it does show you, because I think it intensified Reed's personality a little bit, right? Because he's just toying with everybody at this point. And the way he did the thing in this issue, I thought was very dramatic, where the Forever Gate is compromised. So he tells the kids to enact, what the heck was it called?
Protocol Zero.
Yeah, Protocol Zero, which supposedly was a self-destruct mechanism for the Forever Gate, and supposedly killed all the kids and Alicia. And this degenerates into the classic Reed Ben battle, But to me, it looked like the stakes were higher than ever. And for what happened with Reed is Reed was toying with the thing just to get him to get over what he thinks is going to be his death at the hands of Rapture, who's one of the villains in the Reckoning. And the Thing thinks, or it's been foretold, that Rapture is going to kill Ben, and so Ben thinks he's going to die in this fight. And by having this battle, Reed gets Ben to get over that. We won't. I don't know the real fallout from this, but so now we know we have a Ben that is going to go to the extremes and sacrifice himself if he has to, but Reed needed him to get over it. So he pretended like everybody was dead. Yeah. So I thought that was I think that was the emotional string in this issue that really kind of got me into the ho hum another Reed fights Ben issue. But I really kind of thought the stakes were really high in this. And we haven't even touched in this issue. They don't touch on the other things happening with the resurrection of Galactus and his merging with the Destroyer armor, which I'm sure over the next couple of months, that's going to be huge. But to me, I think Dan Slott has really brought the Fantastic Four back to prominence and almost like their the linchpin almost of the Marvel Universe, where for years they haven't been. And the adventure in this issue and the feeling of anything the Fantastic Four does has universal ramifications in the Marvel Universe. I think that's back. I really am enjoying this storyline. And just to shout out, a couple of weeks ago, the Reckoning War special with the Watcher was absolutely fantastic. And really kind of got into the character of the Watcher, where he realizes that if he never interfered, everything would have worked out fine anyway. So I thought that was great. What did you guys think about this book? And what do you think about the Reckoning War as a whole?
Amazing, right? Because look, what's really at base over here? It's actually, if you know how people are like, well, DC, they're trying to ground themselves. Well, Marvel, they are addressing global issues right now without being grounded. They're like, well, we don't want to mess around over here on Earth, but let's take this issue out here and then let them play around with the ramifications. And the big ramifications is somebody was giving all these planets, all these different species, big weapons. Not like little weapons, not pew pew, like, hey, planet cracking, homicidal, genocidal freaking weapons. They were freaking given that, right? And they're addressing that whole thing. That's because that's a big thing right now, even with the war in Ukraine and Russia right now. That's a big thing. People think Russia. No, there are other entities that are working sidelines that are doing some crazy stuff. So I don't know if they saw the foresight on this and that's how they came up with this. But hey, that's the thing right now. The secondary thing is, I like the fact that they're Jack of Hearts. He's showing up in this one. I don't know what they plan on doing with Jack of Hearts in the MCU. But every time I turn around, this dude showing up, whether it be the Avengers, She-Hulk, or Fantastic Four right now. He keeps showing up. What's the other issue that I'm saying globally right now is privacy, right? Cameras are everywhere. And there's a lot of people who are like, hey, I don't want cameras everywhere. I don't want every single move I make to be watched by somebody, right? So one of the and I think the comic where this was initially was addressed was in like 2004 or 2008 or something like that in the She-Hulk book, where they're like, hey, we want to be in a blind spot. We don't want to be watched at all. We shut it down, freaking turn off everything. And the price for that is when you turn off for the ability to have the security people or whatever watch you, now you are at the behest of the bad guys, right? And that's exactly what happened. That becomes a major plot point for this. Like, hey, because everybody's like, hey, man, I don't like the fact that TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and everything are watching me on my phone, even when I'm not. Give me something. Well, that's great and everything, right? And of course, nobody wants the FBI and federal government watching you on your freaking stuff. That's just. But the thing
not
is,
with my internet history.
But the thing is, once you turn it on, now you're at the behest of the bad guys who are definitely going to be definitely know you're there, and they're definitely going to be on your stuff anyways. So there's a there's a bipolar freaking argument going on with that, and I love that they brought this up, you know, and it's a major point for it, right? Um, the whole emotional thing, right? Of hey, the whole kid, because there's the four kids, right? You mentioned the Kree
Yeah.
kids, the Skrull kids, uh, Reed's kids, right? They've been battling it out for like the last year. Every time I turn around, there is some major. And in fact, they even addressed it in one Fantastic Four issue where they took them to court. Like, hey, you've been pretty bad with these kids. How is this not child endangerment, right?
Right.
Like, how the
Right.
fuck is this not child endangerment? So now here it comes. Here it comes to the head. They are in a major intergalactic war. You got them fighting. Get them out of there, right? So they did Protocol Zero. They shut him out, and he was like, "Hold up, you didn't discuss this with me. Now I gotta kick your ass, Reed. Now I gotta kick your ass." And and then they did the whole emotional thing. I didn't think that was needed. I thought it would have had more weight if they didn't do the reveal. Oh, they're still alive, and we can still get in contact with them. It would have had more weight. Leave it to the next issue to bring up, hey, hey, they're still alive. They're still away. You can get them, freaking.
Mhm.
But it was such an emotional weight where he's like, hey, no, we can't get a hold of it. And you saw the look. You saw Ben Grimm's look. He takes it in. Then he thinks about it just a second, and then his eyes pop up. That's great art.
Yep.
Mm,
That's great art, man. No,
I was gonna, yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Yeah,
What do you think about She-Hulk being back in the book? No?
she's
Nobody?
she's only there because they're on the planet, right? That's the only reason she's there, to give some sort of,
I like her
she's had
costume.
she's had some history. She had some history with that planet back in the day. So she's only there to kind of give that, I suppose, angsty bit from that point of view. I like she I like
I
The
always like
background, right?
She-Hulk as part of the team.
I like She-Hulk on the I like She-Hulk on Fantastic Four more than I like her in Avengers.
Me too.
Hmm.
What did you think about Reckoning War so far, Johnny?
Um, there's a lot going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There is a lot going on, and for
We
this
haven't touched on Nick Fury either.
yeah, this issue I could have done without the side step to where Johnny is, because that was just like, it's part of the main story. I get it, but it doesn't need to be in every absolute issue. It
Yeah.
kind of, for me, it threw me out of the loop because I was really invested in the whole Reed and Ben fight.
Yeah.
And Ben's bang on right. Slot's got it perfect. Ben's giving everything to Reed, and
Hmm.
Reed's treated him like a douchebag. He hasn't even. I mean, I remember a couple of issues ago when the Torch discovered that he couldn't flame off.
Hmm.
And everyone's like, "Oh, don't worry, Reed will fix it." And Ben's grumbling under his breath, "He's never fixed me yet." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, you're right. He hasn't.
Yeah.
Some best friends you are, mate." So yeah, I think the title, The Reckoning War, it works on several layers. Yeah, fair enough. The bad guys are called the Reckoning, but I also think there is going to be a reckoning within the team. That, you know what, Reed isn't um, isn't perfect. There's going to be some crazy stretch eye things. So like, oh, he's got all the power of the Watcher. It just means his brain's going to stretch. I'd like to see that. Like a really big
Yeah.
Bull's head as his brain gets bigger.
I want to see him lose his fucking hair, man, because that whole gray hair on the sides ain't fucking cutting it, man.
Hey, don't you be knocking grey hair. You over there. Yes, I see you. Yes.
Like, he still got the 50s haircut and everything. He's got the gray. Like, nah, man, nah, you're
Hey!
old. You're old, man. Lose your damn hair. At least lose part of the hairline. A little something. Get the LeBron hairline going on something. I mean, because smart people have hairlines. Like lose their hairlines as they get older. It's just a thing.
You know,
I'm
you know what?
gutted.
I just had a thought. You know what I think would be great, because Doctor Doom has been running around in this book too, and he's part of this
Mhm.
storyline. And next issue is going to be, I think, his big issue where he has a big fight. Wouldn't it be great if Doctor Doom cured Ben?
Mm.
Well, I think they'll find out, or what I would like to see is that now that he's got the knowledge of the Watcher, he knows how to fix Ben, but because of this fight,
He
chooses not
won't.
to.
That
That the reckoning is that it's a reckoning between the two.
yeah.
That's how I would write it, because Reed goes through some proper torment in this issue, and so he should, because he's an absolute douche.
He is, but that's what makes this comic so good at this point, because they really kind of really bring out the personalities. And Reed has always been kind of off put, like standoffish a bit. So,
Yeah.
too wrapped up in his work to care about his wife and his kids and his best friend. So, I think Dan Slott is just pumping on all cylinders in this book, and this is probably going to be one of those storylines that I look back on and say it was probably the best storyline of the last 10 or 15 years for the Fantastic Four.
So let me ask you. Well, that's not saying much to the work in publishing.
I mean,
so,
that's very true.
So let me ask you this question then before we cut to the break.
Sure.
Do you prefer Slot on this or Spider-Man?
Easy. This. Easy.
I really liked Spider-Man when he was on the book, and I don't think the book has been better since he left.
That's a true thing.
So
True that.
I would say I liked him on Spider-Man. I think Superior Spider-Man was probably the best storyline I've read probably in the last 10 years in Spider-Man. Or
Okay.
It's been more than 10 years for Superior Spider-Man, maybe. But yeah,
Nope.
I think Spider-Man. If Dan Slott ever goes back there, I'm on board. So
Okay,
all right,
cool.
so let's take a break, and we'll be right back to talk more comics.
Let me ask you a question. Are you wanting to read a new comic book that has nothing to do with the big two? Are you tired of looking through countless titles and have no idea where to begin? Well, don't you worry, because the Random Dude Josh and Johnny the Machine Hughes has the podcast for you. Flipside Focus, only on the Undercover Capes Podcast Network.
All right. Make sure to check out Flipside Focus and all the other podcasts on Undercover Capes Podcast Network, most of them starring Johnny Hughes.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
You're
No,
on
most
everything. Can't get away from you.
No, I can leave anytime you like, I don't like,
I
it's gonna be
prefer my podcasts to have a dose of Johnny in them.
There you go. If you're gonna be like that about it.
All right, so let's jump into Lucas's pick. We're going to talk Captain Marvel Annual #1.
Yes, sir. Captain Marvel Annual #1, written by Tarun Grumbeck. Artist was Carlos Gomez. Color artist was Dijo Lima. Letter and productions, of course, VC's Clayton Cowles. He's all over the place. Every time I turn around, there's another VC. This VC, Clayton Cowles. This every time. But
Have you noticed when Clayton Cowles on a DC book, he doesn't go by VC's Clayton Cowles, he just goes by Clayton Cowles.
Oh, I did not know that.
There you
But
go.
this book was handmade for Johnny to try to pronounce the creators. I'm like, what's that O with the line through it? What the heck is that? That's not in my alphabet. What the heck is that?
It's all right. I can speak Klingon. I'm all right.
Make it till you make it, man. Freaking. Oh, we'll talk about Star Trek Discovery a little bit later. I mean, later on after the show. But so once again, I'm not a huge Captain Marvel fan. I think there's so much potential in Captain Marvel that they could be doing with this character. They just haven't found their stride with her yet. But this one in particular kind of got to me, right? So the point of the story is it's like a prison break story. That's really all it is at the base of it, right? She has this friend who's a child, and she hears that she's in prison. She tracks her to this one prison. It's like, and it's not just like a normal prison on a freaking planet. The whole planet is like a prison planet. That's how they freaking all the employees are freaking prisoners. The governors are just prison wardens and everything. No, you once you arrive, you do something wrong. Your freaking hours and days gets tacked onto your sentence and everything. So she all she knows is she's got to get this child out. She gets the child, and the child is actually with some of the Starjammers, these knuckleheads right here on the freaking cover, right?
Can we just quickly shout out that the Starjammers were also in the Reckoning War?
They are.
Yes,
They're all
yeah.
over the place.
So sorry.
So, well, no, that's a good point, because what do I always say? If you start seeing these characters show up in more than one freaking issue or more than one freaking comic, that means that there is some type of plan by Kevin Feige to actually put them in the MCU somewhere at some point.
When's the Wrecking Crew showing up?
Well, didn't they show up in one of the Spider-Man No Way Homes or Homecoming or Prom Queen or some crap like that?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so freaking, to get to the child's like, hey, freaking, I'm ready to get out of here right now. So during most of the rest of the book is just a whole freaking Prison Break movie. The reason why I can hone in on this one, because there was some excellent writing that got to the basic economic thing of this whole planet, right? Hey, once you're born, I mean, and even in fact, some of the children that were born there were the children of debtors and prisoners, and once they were born, there was an automatic debt that was put onto them. And in order to eat, they had to put more debt or hours that they had to work in the mines, right? There was just a whole economic system to this thing that was amazing to see somebody actually put it on paper and explain how it works. Oh, you want to freaking breathe? Okay, you're gonna have to tack some hours on her. You want to freaking eat? There you go. You want a nice posh freaking bedroom? You're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to pay more for that, and you're gonna have to pay by working in the mines, right? So I like that little bit. It was about maybe 4 to 5 pages long, but it was just that type of stuff that I would actually love for Captain Marvel to explore more in her actual books, that would give more depth to what she's actually fighting. Because right now, to me, she's just some chick that has a lot of powers, just flying there and there, and then in the MCU, she's like, well, I could be here because I'm out in space. But if you're telling me she's out in space to fight against this type of tyranny, against this type of slavery, now you got a character that I can, get into, and I would love to see, those type of adventures. Like, hey, I'm going to this planet because this is the way and these guys over here are fighting because of this, right? I would love to see more of a grounded freaking explanation as to why she's out there and who she's fighting for. And then in the end, it got a little tricky because the only thing that ruined it was because the governmental experimentation thing, where they tried to kill the child, because the child is basically a virus, right? You nick her a little bit, and then two more pop up, and then two more pop up, and then that's the whole thing. So they found her own planet, they put her on the whole planet, and where she was one of 9, she's now like one of 200 that's out there. So to me, it's like, wait, if you got this thing that could multiply multiple times without control, then that literally is a virus, which means that the government scientists were kind of right, But that's just me. I don't know if you guys got to look at it, but I really like the book.
I got to look at it first. I've written an advanced review for this a couple of weeks back, back on Comic Crusaders. So I think Captain Marvel's probably one of the most consistent books that Marvel put out there. I agree with you to an extent, Lucas, that what she should be doing more, and there should be an overall arc to what she does rather than just flip from adventure to adventure in some sort of haphazard manner. But quality-wise, I think Captain Marvel has always been up there, especially with Kelly Thompson on the book. But this book does bring up a certain peeve that I have. Don't you feel that Marvel of late have a house style? It's not just related to art anymore. It's very much of writing. So I flicked through this book when I got it as an advanced review. If I hadn't have checked, this could be Kelly Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It could be Jed McKay. It could be Carla Pacheco. It could be any host of any writers that Marvel are doing right now with this humor, banter, style that goes on. There's like a house style. It's like an editorial edict that says you've got to be super funny all the time. And there's only a couple of books that aren't like that. The X books, for example, are their own little thing. But even that's its own problem because, as Professor said before we started, every X book reads the same. There's no differential anymore.
It looks the same. Everything.
So it's like, come on. At least on DC books, the different Batman books, yes, there's lots of them, but they all look different. They all read different. This is just, Marvel have worked out a standard of which they want to aim for, and they do it very, very well. I love the Strange book by Jed McKay. But then again, I like Black Cat. Black Cat's a humorous character. Does Captain Marvel always need to be so humorous? I don't know. Exactly. No. I did like some of the dialogue quirks in this, when one of the Starjammers speaks in a kind of off English manner. That was fun. I liked how she always kept blaming Quasar for everything that was going wrong. It's like that made me laugh. The art, again, it's a generic Marvel house style.
It is.
If you're gonna have different artists on books, can I not see them do their thing, please? I mean, don't get me wrong, I thought it was decent. I mean, Captain Marvel, body proportions stayed consistent throughout the book. There wasn't any wonky hair going short, long, blowing, not blowing, or anything like that. And I think the colours were great on the book. I think, I enjoyed reading it. And if anyone thinks I'm kicking the book, I'm really not. I gave this book 4 stars, 4 stars out of 5. So I enjoyed reading it. It's just one of those pet peeves that it's just Marvel by the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I did enjoy the book because I liked seeing Captain Marvel back with the Starjammers. If everybody remembers, when she was binary, she was a member of the Starjammers. So seeing them back together and having that familiarity, I thought that was pretty cool. And it did remind me of just the vast history that Carol Danvers has in the Marvel universe.
Especially now Binary's back.
Right. And so and maybe that's what we see. Maybe we see that Binary kind of spin off and go back with the Starjammers if the Starjammers stick around for a little bit. But yeah, I thought this was good. Not really. I haven't really been a big fan of the annuals that they brought back over the last couple of years. They're all one shots, and I would like them if they did more of kind of like a tryout book kind of things, like the annuals used to be like a tryout for new talent. And this would, I mean, I haven't never heard of these two creators on here, but like you said, it was a house style. So it didn't look, if you didn't see the creators, you would have thought it was the regular team.
Yeah.
So that to me is the only drawback that I would have is what you've already said. But yeah, I think, there should be more Captain Marvel. I think we're past the point of being me being angry about them rebooting the book every year. So, because that used to make me mad. But if we're talking about reboots and cancellations, can we start talking a little bit about what Marvel has decided to do with some of these other books? And I know, Johnny, some of the books are really good. Why are they canceling?
I absolutely have no idea. I was in my local comic book shop. I should give them a shout out. The Darl Night in a little town called Darlington near me. And we were talking. And it's a little independent bookstore, comic book store. It has no links to Forbidden Planet or any massive chains like that. He goes through, and this might sound like low numbers, and apologies if it does, but one of his best sellers is Spider-Woman. And he sells 10 copies a month of Spider-Woman. Right? He goes through 8 copies of Black Widow. And these are 2 books. Black Widow won an award last year for the best new series. And yet Marvel have cut both of them. I cannot believe it when you think of how much effort Carlo Pacheco has put into making Spider-Woman's history make sense in the first 13 issues.
Of course, yeah.
And then, yeah, fair enough, it turned into a bit of a humour book, and the last one was slapstick on top of slapstick. But the Black Widow book, I mean, there's some really good stuff in there. The art's a bit wonky every now and again, but generally speaking, there's a whole host of different relationships going on. In fact, we even said recently when I looked at the Ghost Rider #1, they've given Johnny Blaze his perfect family, his perfect life, which was the same storyline that kicked this Black Widow story book off. The
Right.
fact that she had a perfect life, she had a husband and she had a son in Stevie and Little James. So I don't understand it. I don't get it. It can't be that they're just female characters. Because if you think about it, this year, Black Cat gone, Spider Woman gone, Black Widow gone. And fair enough, you've got Clea to replace Stephen Strange. But even that sounds bonkers, because why would you do that when you've got a Doctor Strange movie coming out?
Okay. Well, let me reel this in. So, no, I cannot confirm that Spider Woman has actually been canceled because I've been going through all of my announcements through PRH
It
and
has
Diamond.
been cancelled. If you check the book, it says this is the last issue, final issue. We're done.
Yeah, it says it right on the cover.
Yeah. But they've done that before with like Strange Academy. They say, hey, we're going to cancel Strange Academy, and then 2 weeks later, we already know there's another series coming out. So
well, they said that at the end of Strange Academy, right at the last page. They said it's gonna be coming out with a new #1. So,
but here's what's actually happening, right? So Disney, they're folding in the characters, right? So right now, what we're waiting on Wednesday is Janet Yellen, who is the big mama of the Fed, is going to come out and most likely is going to say, hey, there's going to be a recession, and that's because of two things: war in Ukraine, Russia, also
and Spider-Woman comics.
The Fed rate, which is supposed to go to like 3% within the next year or so. So, everybody that bought a whole bunch of money to make all this comic stuff, they're going to shit their pants because they brought a lot of money and they're not going to be able to pay it back. Especially, remember, Disney sent a whole bunch of stuff over to China. Say, hey, can you play our stuff? And China said no. And it wasn't until the Spider-Man joint that they started allowing Disney stuff to be coming. So Disney owes a lot of money, and their interest rates are going up on them. Now, the other thing that's interesting, and I've been talking about paper for like the last 2 years, is that paper is becoming rarity, and it's showing up in the last couple of weeks. The last 2 shipments I've gotten from Marvel, Penguin Random House, the paper from some of these books have been absolute horrendous. Right?
Really?
Yeah, horrendous. Like just paper thin, like toilet paper thin. They've been resilient, but just paper. So a lot of people have been pissed off about it because hey, you still got me paying $3.99, $5.99 on some of these books, and the paper has been absolute freaking trash. Now the other thing is like, okay, it makes sense because there's been a lot of complaints about the weight of the books because the weight of the book, you put them in a freaking box and they're going shit to this place and the freaking shit set up and the weight messes them up. But now the shipments are lighter, which means a lot less of the books have been messed up. But you can claim that, but we know the real reason is that with inflation, the prices of shipping and paper has gone up, and that's just what it is, right? So once again, if I'm running out of paper, the right paper that I need, I got to cut back on some of these titles. Thank God, right? Because what was the golden age for me right now is during a pandemic when they cut all the X-Men books out, and we then went down to just the 2 books, The Power of X and House of X, and it was a lot easier to read all the Marvel stuff. So now they're going to cut down some of the stuff. Let's go ahead, cut out Black Widow, but put her back in the Avengers. Go ahead, cut out Spider-Man, put her back in the Amazing Spider-Man book, right?
Do not put her in the Amazing Spider-Man book. I do not want to be buying. I'm already keeping an eye on Amazing Spider-Man for Black Cat. I do not want to be reading. If I want to be reading a Spider-Man book, I'm going to be reading it because of Spider-Man, not because of his amazing bloody friends.
So I'm going to go a different direction here. I don't really mind that Black Widow or Spider-Woman get canceled or what have you. What I want is fine, cancel that, put Kelly Thompson on Avengers or something. Give them something to do that just so that they're not unemployed. I think that there are so many strong women writers at Marvel right now that give them a different character to handle instead of just giving them all the female characters to write. I think Kelly Thompson on Iron Man or something like that. Give her something to do. Put we're seeing Rainbow Rowell, who was I really loved on Runaways. Now she's writing She-Hulk. But I'd like to see her on something more high profile.
That's a great point, but don't forget, Kelly Thompson's one of the brain trusts behind the whole Spider-Man Beyond storyline.
Just as of last month.
No, that was from the get-go. The whole Spider-Man Beyond she's on there. She's part of that whole writing group that put that forward.
So
a lot of people are not.
So maybe I'm wrong then, because I didn't like Beyond at all. So maybe. But
everybody hates that shit. So.
Yeah. But from what I'm saying, man, I loved Black Widow, and I did like the Spider-Woman run. I liked Black Cat. I liked what they're doing. But it seems like the next time we'll see Kelly Thompson is when there's another female character that they want to give a high profile to.
For me, it's not. Kelly Thompson's great. I think she's fantastic. Carla Pacheco, really, really solid writer, really fun. The Spider-Woman book was great fun. For the most part, I do dislike the fact they broke up the relationship she had with Roger for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then didn't move on from that. But rather than think about what Kelly Thompson's doing, what are they doing with the characters? The characters kind of just sit in limbo. I mean, they shouldn't. They shouldn't.
Right.
I mean, if Marvel didn't care that much about Spider-Woman, why bring her back in the first place? And why give her legacy numbers on the cover of a book?
Yeah. No, that's true.
And the last issue has her going off with Lindsay McCabe to go back to Madripoor, right?
So maybe they do reboot that, and we get a story of Spider-Woman in Madripoor starring Patch.
Well, and don't even get me started about that Patch book. That Patch book is terrible. But there was a time about 8 months ago where everyone was talking about how Carol Danvers and Jessica Drew were going to get together. Where did that go? I mean, that is a great idea. They've been friends for God knows how long. They've been part of each other's lives for so long. It makes complete sense to me that they would form a relationship. But then, where did that go? It was like.
Would you read a Tales of Suspense like book with a double story with both of those characters in a team up book?
I tell you what, I'd like to see. I'd like to see a book called JJ's, and it's about Jessica Drew and Jessica Jones, who as private detectives. There you go, crack on.
Yeah.
Black Cat is the Black Cat is the foil on the street who knows all the dodgy shades going on. There you go. That's the book. I'll buy that. Put some J. Scott Campbell covers on it. Boom.
Yeah. Marvel, if you're listening, we would like jobs.
All right. So we're closing out. Can I get my the 2 minutes to close out?
Yeah. Take it over.
It's a 2-minute warning with Lucas.
All right. So here's the rest of the news. Look, Hasbro Pulse is coming out with some new Star Wars toys. The most notable is that White Darth Vader, which was a storyline where Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, actually goes over to the white side and becomes a Jedi. So that's coming out. Actually, it was on sale supposedly on April 7th, but I don't know whether it's sold out or what. But I don't know what they think, because here's the deal. There was a toy for that before, back in 2004, and it had the comic first appearance in it as well. So that's out there. So I wouldn't spend too much on that Black Series on. I would freaking go for this one if you guys are really interested in that one. There's also going to be a Moon Knight action figure out there. It's going to be 6-inch scaled. It looks good so far from what I've seen, and I think depending on the series, people are definitely going to be interested in this one. Right? FOC real quick. Black Panther, freaking the Appy. I love this. Her doing the Wakanda sign. There's a Sabretooth #4, the Mastrasso. Moon Knight, John Romita. This one's open order.
That one looks
And
good.
then this one,
That was Liefeld.
Liefeld. Oh yeah. Excuse me.
No,
Yeah, Liefeld.
no, my eyes.
This is a Moon Knight sick events. This one's a 1 in 25. This one is kind of cute. Silver Surfer Rebirth. This is the scroll variant, and as you can see, there's a scroll on his board.
Yeah, that's cool.
Silver Surfer Rebirth, a nice Thanos by Yoon. Gambit's coming out. This one's by Enoch Lee. I forget who did this one. This one is by Momoko. There's a 1 in 100. Venom, Enoch Lee. He's got a lot of covers coming out not this week, but in a month. Another Venom #8. The Fortnite. Keep an eye out for these Fortnite joints because they're supposed to have codes that you can use to play, get either masks or costumes, or do whatever inside of Fortnite. They were really popular when Fortnite did a DC variant. People went crazy for those. The Captain America Symbol of Truth. This one is the Torrin Clark. People love Torrin Clark right now,
That shield perspective looks a bit bonkers.
it does.
Doesn't it look
Looks
tiny? It looks like a small shield.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
I don't know what that means, but okay. What if Miles Morales? But this one was the most popular that speculators are talking about right now.
I don't get the point of the what if Miles Morales. I saw the first one was what if he became Captain America. I was like, what's the point of this book? I'm not quite sure.
Well, I mean, he does have this one book that's coming out. I think it's like issue number 37, where his sister shows up.
All right.
But his sister is all grown up, and she's like a spider killer.
Ooh. Now that's an interesting story. I'll tell you that.
That Miles Morales book seems more like a Spider-Verse, but Miles Morales based, where there's all the different characters. They're all Miles, but he's the Hulk, he's Iron Man.
So like the Gwen story, the Gwen verse thing.
Right. Yeah. So those are the covers, but inside the actual book, from what I've seen so far, there's like different versions of some of the other characters. Like at one point, Black Panther shows up, Doc Ock shows up. So just another multiverse book, but the only thing, we're not going to review this shit. We're not going to review this shit. I can tell you right now.
Let me just make a note of when you said that, so I'm going to pick the book next time.
Marvel Voices. This one is an Enoch Lee, really good one of Lunar Snow.
Is that the female creator voices? Is that what that is?
I think so. So. I would have to look up more about what they're doing. And this one is by a Wu.
I like that cover.
I'm reading the Silk at the minute. It's all right. It's not great. It's not great. Stuff, but it's all right.
It's better than Spider-Man right now.
Well, it's better than Spider-Woman because it's still ongoing.
Iron Fist 2 design variant.
Right.
Avengers. This one is kind of interesting because we just came off the storyline where Mjolnir has a soul. It does have something inside of it, and then you got Valkyrie, Jane Foster, on the other side, and we do know that Mjolnir does have the ability to make itself into or personify itself and make itself look like Thor. So that's the whole thing right now. Black Panther, Coco Low.
Can I just say that I hate the way that Storm is written in Black Panther right now?
Yes.
If anybody's reading it,
yes,
they write her so terribly.
Weird, just weird.
She's supposed to talk like a goddess, and she talks like street.
Jenny from the block. Yeah.
Yep.
But nobody's reading Black Panther right now for Storm or Black Panther. They're reading it right now for Tosin, whose first appearance was number 3.
Right.
Iron Man, speculating on loving, I guess. Regan Black Cat, Iron Man making love out in the clouds. I guess that's the thing now.
That's not Black Cat.
That's Hellcat.
Yeah. And there's going to be a Fortnite cover. Captain America, Symbol of Truth, Scotty Young.
That one.
More Torrin Clark. This one is the Oliver Coipel. This one, there's a 1 to 50 of this one, as well as a regular cover. And there's a Fortnite cover. And then that's it.
All right.
And
I like seeing the new art because sometimes they creep up on me and I don't search it enough to see what's coming. So sometimes it's a surprise. So all right. So that's going to do it for us for No Prize Podcast. I hope everybody had fun. See us again in a couple of weeks, and we will see you then. Hasta la vista.
Adios.